Hello and welcome to the In the Moment magazine podcast. I'm Kate Bennett, I'm the production editor on the mag, and today I'm joined by Julie Montagu. She's a yogi, a nutritionist, a mindfulness guru, and she's headlining at Wanderlust 108 this year. Hi, Julie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No problem. So today we're talking about yoga and how it can be part of your whole life rather than just something you kind of practice on the mat. So let's start at the beginning. Julie, tell us about your yoga journey. Like, what does it mean to you?
My yoga journey, I feel like it's a long one now. So it's been a very long yoga journey, which has been great. So I really started out getting into yoga after my fourth was born. So I've got 4 kids, and having one child is hard enough, but having 4, it's near impossible. So after my fourth was born, I really kind of felt like I lost a sense of myself, and I was giving all of my energy to my 4 kids. I was giving all my energy at the time. My husband was actually sick at that time as well. Mm-hmm. So it was like double whammy, 4 young kids, a sick husband, and there's only one of me. And my whole life became almost like Groundhog Day. So I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it was like I'd wake up, it was the same thing over and over again. And I definitely lost my sense of self. And at this point, I'm in my mid-30s, and I needed something. And I didn't even know really what it was. So a friend of mine took me to a Vinyasa Flow class, and she's like, this is like no other class that you've done before. Just come. And it was like no other class that I've done before. And number one, it was Vinyasa Flow, which I really related to. So it was for me, I liked the physicality behind it. But number 2, I had a really good teacher. And I think with yoga in particular, it's about having that good teacher as well.
Yeah.
And so I ended up walking out of that class in floods of tears, but in tears that were so wonderful that they made me feel so good that I thought I have to have this feeling every single day. And that's where my yoga journey began. And then I decided to become a teacher about a year later. And I remember doing my first teacher training in New York, and my teacher we went around the room asking, why do you want to become a yoga teacher? And my answer back then is still the same as it is fast forward 10 years now, which is because I never want anybody to feel as bad about themselves as I felt about myself before. And that is the sole purpose as to why I teach and do yoga.
That's incredible. I think a lot of people can definitely relate to that, with that feeling of sort of like burnout and doing those same things every day and not taking the time for themselves. And yoga is such a great way to do that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's super important. I meet so many people who are like, I don't have time. How do you have time? And people say, how do you have time, Julie? You have 4 kids and you have like 5 different jobs, and I'm traveling between London and Dorset. And how I have the time is I make the time. Like, that is my priority. And I find that, I do a class at least 5 times a week, and I put it in my diary without fail. Every Sunday, I look on an app and I figure out which ones are going to work with my schedule. I book them in, I schedule them in, and nothing apart from a child emergency gets in the way of doing my yoga. And I get way more done, and I'm much more effective when I do my yoga. So I always tell people, schedule it in, because you're going to feel so much better about yourself, and you actually will get more done.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's that thing on the plane where you can't help somebody else until you put your own mask on, and it is very much that, I think.
Yeah, it's the same thing. There's this great guy in America named Dr. Andrew Weil, and I suspect he's getting up there in age these days, because I heard this when he must have been in his mid-60s, and it was about, over 10 years ago. But it's the same thing as the airplane analogy you just made. But what he said, when you feel your heart beating, there's a pause and then a beat, and then a pause and the beat. And the pause is actually when the heart takes care of itself first. So the heart is actually pumping blood into itself to feed itself first. And then the beat is when it's like, okay, I fed myself first, I took care of myself first, and now I can take care of everybody else and every cell in this body. And it's the same thing with us. We have to be able to take care of ourselves first, and then we'll have more energy to take care of everybody else.
Yeah, I just think that's, just so important in today's society, especially because we are just so busy. So is that kind of like what inspired your whole self kind of movement?
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm going to steal that whole self movement. That's exactly right. Do you know, that is what inspired it, because I've done a lot of my own teacher trainings, as in I've gone to India, I've done 2 in London, I've done 1 in New York. And they were all wonderful, don't get me wrong. But for me, they lacked something for myself, like something about how can I work on myself? And yes, of course, yoga gives you the tools to work on yourself, but I wanted more. I wanted to go a little bit deeper. And for me, yoga is about the whole self, clearing out the junk, putting away the masks that we wear, all of the time, and becoming and realizing our true, authentic self. So the whole self movement, which is the basis for my teacher training and really all of my courses, it's starting with yourself. It's basically decluttering all of the bad habits. It's decluttering all of the ways that we think we have to be. It's decluttering and getting rid of those toxic relationships. And it's coming back to a point that you are so proud of who you are. I always tell my students, you have a 1 in 400 million chance of being born. Like, that is huge. You are here for a reason. So why would you not want to be your true authentic self? And it's the same thing. I've got 4 kids and they're all so different. And whenever they used to complain to me like, oh, I wish I was more like Jack because he's super sporty, or I wish I was more like Emma because she's so organized, I was like, no, don't wish that you were somebody else, because if we were all the same person, life would be incredibly boring. Embrace your uniqueness, and not only embrace your uniqueness, but like plug yourself in and let that uniqueness shine out from you. That's really what whole self's about.
Yeah, that's, I think, something that a lot of people don't necessarily realize about kind of yoga and coming on the mat. We see it's just a physical practice, but it is so much more than that, isn't it? Like, so much more. Once you can channel and get into that on the mat, and then you can take it off the mat.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And yoga's just about, somebody asked me the other day, they said, does your husband do yoga? And, the answer is no. He doesn't do what we call typical yoga. But you know what I tell people this, I'm like, his yoga may not be my yoga, but his yoga is going out a couple times a week, out on a boat and fishing in the English Channel by himself. And it's just like, he's breathing in the fresh air. He's finding stillness. He's staying in the present moment. And for him, that is his form of yoga.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. And like you say, a lot of people, in fact, obviously we've all done yoga and we've all been on the mat, but there's so much that you can take away from it. And it doesn't have to be within that physical practice. It could be anything at all.
That's right. I mean, listen, the asana, the poses are only just one of the 8 different limbs. That's it. Yoga is about, obviously, the pratyahara of letting go of everything else and moving into your senses, and then, the other part of yoga is obviously pranayama, which is the breathing. And then, the other part of yoga is the meditation. So the asana, the pose part, is just 1/8 of what yoga is.
I wanted to ask as well, sort of on that lines, I know you do a lot of work with food and you're a nutritionist. So how does that play in as well to all of that?
Yeah, it's I was fortunate enough to come to get really, really interested in food over a decade ago, right when sort of the healthy living sort of industry started to happen over here. And I only really got into it because I was going to yoga practices, and we were all like taking our lunches, or we would meet afterwards. And this is, just a decade ago, but this was back in the day when we were pronouncing it quinoa.
Yeah.
Right? And
we've all been there.
No one knew what chia seeds were, right? So I would be coming home being like, oh my gosh, there's this great little seed that has omega-3 fatty acids and calcium and protein in it. And you just have to have a teaspoon a day. And the quinoa has, more B vitamins in it than any other grain, and it's gluten-free. And now we all know that stuff. But this, so I started blogging about it only because I wanted to document the recipes that I was making for my kids. And my movement into food was because I was coming from that place of exhaustion, not having time for myself, and I was becoming lazy, like whipping up kind of ugly food for my 4 kids and husband. And I'm like, I have to be passionate about this. What's going to make me passionate about it? And it was finding these new different grains and these new vegetables and these new fruits and these new superfoods. And it was so much fun. And I still cook like that today, albeit I don't have as much time as I like to, but luckily my kids are grown and they are brilliant in the kitchen.
But that's it, isn't it? If you can bring them up with that sort of knowledge and understanding and appreciation of nourishing themselves, then I think it does pass itself on. And
it really does. I
burden.
hear the Vitamix now. Before I was making smoothies for my kids, and now in particular my 13-year-old, I hear the Vitamix all of the time, and he's putting in banana, coconut milk, cacao, and agave, and he makes this amazing shake as for a 13-year-old, and he's like, I love it. It's so good.
That's incredible, isn't it? It's so good to see that directly sort of benefiting.
Absolutely.
So, as I mentioned, you're headlining at Wanderlust 108 this month. Tell us about it. Are you excited?
Yes, I'm excited with a little bit of nerves. But as my husband always reminds me, if we weren't nervous, it wouldn't be healthy. So nervous is a sign of nervous, as I tell people, is a healthy thing because it means you care. So, and I do care so much about Wanderlust 108, and it's really a wonderful mindfulness triathlon. So you've got a 5K at the beginning that you can either walk or run. I would be in the walker line. I'm not a runner. I love to walk though. I'll walk anywhere and everywhere. And then a 90-minute yoga session, which I will be leading on stage in front of 4,000 people, which I'm super excited about. And it's for all levels. So 90 minutes for all levels. If it's your first time, definitely come. If you've been doing yoga for years, definitely come. It's more about just getting on the mat and the community aspect of it. And then Michael James Wong will be leading the meditation at the end. And then there's just a whole host of wonderful speakers that people can come and listen to. There's wonderful, amazing foods there, and sort of pop-up restaurants, and cooking demos, gong baths, different forms of meditation. It's going to be an amazing day out.
Just kind of something for everybody, really, whatever you find that you connect with.
Exactly. And the speakers there are, I can't wait to go to some of these speakers afterwards, but I am really looking forward to leading 90 minutes on stage. So yes. I can't wait.
I think it's going to be good. I think, community and yoga, a lot of people, again, don't sort of associate the two together because you go on your own to a class and you do it and then you leave. But why is community such a big part of yoga, and kind of what can it lead you towards if you take part?
I'm so happy you're asking this question. It's funny, I was just teaching a class this morning in Chelsea, and it just came to me, and I just said to the class, and I just said, here's the thing about, first of all, thank yourself for turning up on your mat. The hardest thing about yoga is actually turning up on your mat. And then I said, secondly, we become a society addicted to our screens, everything. Yes, you can go online and that's great. On the days that you can't get into a class, I always tell people, go do something online. Find a great YouTube tutorial or one of the online yoga sessions. But I always tell people, make it a point to get to that yoga class because it's community. My best friends have actually stemmed from my teaching, people ask me all the time, they're like, do you do yoga videos? Do you do self-practice? Do you do yoga videos at home? The answer is no, I don't. I get to a class because I love the community, the connection with people, the interaction. And especially now more than ever, I think we have to be very careful about this addiction that we are having to digital technology. And we're forgetting about how important it is to have that connection with somebody, to have that community, to have that relationship, to see somebody smile at you, to smile back at somebody, to have somebody say something nice to you, for you to say something nice back to somebody else. And that's what yoga does.
Yeah, and I think that these kind of big events like this, which are becoming more and more the norm and more people are getting to know them, I think it's a really great way to come and do something which is so different from your normal practice, where you maybe get in your certain headspace and to actually meet new people. I saw this great photo of it last year where everyone was standing on one leg and all holding arms, and it just looked like such a wonderful, inclusive space, really.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was lucky enough to be on the stage last year, and they kindly asked me back again this year. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's going to be great. So when it comes to doing a class with you, what does that entail usually? What kind of yoga do you teach? How does it feel like?
Yes, no. So I always tell teachers that students of mine that then become teachers and even new teachers, I always tell them, don't copy a style or a teacher that you like because that's authentic to them. Find your own authentic voice. The second you start becoming another teacher, you're not going to have students come to your class because we can all sense and feel that. So my authentic, and I always tell people this, I'm like Marmite, you either love or hate me. My authentic style is, number one, I don't play traditional, I guess, what you would call yogic music. You will hear Coldplay in my classes and occasional U2, and I've been really into Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal recently, so that's been on my playlist. It's a dynamic class. So I usually start off my classes with a reading and a modern day reading, a 2-minute reading where people are in Supta Baddha Konasana doing a breathing exercise with their eyes closed, and then I read. And people ask me, they're like, how do you pick your readings? I'm like, I pick my readings because I pick a reading that I need for myself. And that's authentic to me. And so then I read that to the class, and then we really start to flow. So you will sweat a lot, move a lot, and breathe a lot in my classes. And then, the last 10 to 15 minutes are always then obviously a little bit more grounding, and then going into either a long Shavasana. I'm keen on long Shavasanas. I actually don't go to teachers' classes if they give me a 3-minute or 2-minute Shavasana.
I feel the same.
I'm like, give me 5 at least minutes. Minimum is a 5-minute Shavasana. I'm usually between 5 to 7 minutes. Or sometimes I'll take them into a Shavasana and then and then lead them from Shavasana into meditation, and then end the class that way.
Yeah, I think it's so important to just have those 5 minutes. We so rarely get that time to just lie down and just relax in a day. So if I'm at a class and I've got that, I want those 5 minutes.
No. I've been quite strict with my class recently because I feel, especially in London and teaching in London, people are busy. I mean, we're all busy, but London is just a big, busy city. And so I've become a little bit stricter because I found that people were like, my class ends at 10:15 and I'll put them in Shavasana at 10:10, and people will be like, oh, sorry, I have to go. I'm like, no. The class time ends at 10:15. And it's funny, I recently started saying it, and now everybody's staying for Shavasana. And somebody came up and thanked me. They said, thank you for basically saying, if you can't stay until the end of the class, don't come to my class, right? The class ends at 10:15. So, and people were like, I just needed you to put a boundary there and say it. So, yeah.
So is that kind of what you want people to take away from your classes, kind of that sense of being able to put in those boundaries and sort of take something back for themselves? And
yeah, I think, when today teaching the class, I said to everybody, and again, it's authentically speak for me because it just comes from a place of truth and honesty. And I said to them today, it's Monday morning. I get it. Your kids, some of you have kids, they've gone back to school and you're worried about that. You've got to go to a job after this. You've got 1,000,001 things to do. It's Monday morning. And what I said to them is, promise yourself right now, or make a commitment to yourself right now, that you are just going to switch off all of that. It's 60 times around the clock. It is 1 hour. That is it. So take this hour for you. And let all that other stuff, it'll still be there when you get done at 10:15, but make a promise and a commitment to yourself right now that you're just going to breathe for your body, you're going to move for your body, you're going to stay in the present moment, and basically you're just going to take care of yourself. And it was great because after class today, I had about 6 people come up to me and they were like, I needed you to tell me that. I think sometimes being a yoga teacher, you tell your students in a kind way, they're tired of talking themselves. They're tired of telling their kids what to do. They're tired of telling their coworkers, their spouses what to do. Sometimes it's nice to be told what to do.
Yeah, sometimes you do just need that. And especially from someone who, sort of is outside looking in and can just enforce it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, it's been so wonderful to chat to you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me. I can't wait to hear it.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you at Wanderlust. So
yeah, I'm very excited.
I will be there on the mat, probably falling over and having
fun. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. That's what we want. Just have fun.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the In the Moment magazine podcast. And if you're interested in attending Wanderlust 108 next year, we'd recommend heading over to wanderlust.com and signing up for their email newsletter. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd really love it if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, as it really helps us to hear your feedback. You can also get in touch with us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram @InTheMomentMag, or you can email us at calmmoment@immediate.co.uk. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again really soon. Bye!